Why, even after leaving, avoidants cannot break free from the relationship with a super empath. The truth about avoidant spouses and the so-called super empath they left behind is something that most people never share with you. Avoidance doesn't truly break free from that connection. They pull away from the partnership. Yes, but not because of the mark it makes on their sense of self, emotional memory, and nervous system. Just because they close the door doesn't mean that connection is lost. It lurks in the background, reappearing during times of emotional dysregulation, loneliness, or when they meet someone new who doesn't share their feelings. You must comprehend what set that tie apart from all of their previous relationships in order to comprehend why. A hyper-empath is a serious lover. They don't cling for amusement, approval, or self-gratification. Through attunement, they bond. They sense things below the surface. They react with presence rather than control, perceive subtle mood changes, and detect unsaid emotions. This type of love is extremely unstable for an avoidant, a person whose nervous system was taught at a young age that intimacy is dangerous. It's unfamiliar, not because it's terrible. Rather than combating the avoidant's protections, it gets around them. It provides intimacy without intrusion and safety without demand. Additionally, an avoidance system records that degree of emotional attunement as uncommon once they encounter it. Avoidance survives by separating from emotional intensity, even if their conscious mind tries to downplay or justify it away. They rationalize emotions. They divide up their experiences. They persuade themselves that the empath was too strong or that their feelings weren't that intense. Erase the conundrum, though. The link reached areas that nothing else had, which is precisely why they call it overwhelming. Without passing judgment, a powerful empath reflects back to them their unprocessed inner world of avoidance. And that's scary. Because it compels the avoidant to face feelings they have suppressed for their entire lives. Longing, grief, vulnerability, and the fear of being genuinely seen. This explains why avoidance frequently terminates a relationship abruptly, becomes chilly, or changes the narrative. The weak relationship is not the reason. It's because they couldn't manage its strength. An avoidant is not breaking free from the link when they distance themselves from a super empath. They are running away from themselves. By going back to distance, independence, and numbness, they are attempting to restore emotional balance. However, the neurological system retains memories. The body retains memories. And just because a relationship ends doesn't mean that memory disappears. Something intriguing occurs over time. The avoidant encounters new individuals. They go on dates. They make flirtatious remarks. Because they don't delve deeply, they establish surface-level ties that feel secure. However, no two things land exactly the same. Discussions seem thinner. Transactions involving emotions feel transactional. Less warmth, resonance, and emotional intelligence are present. At that point, the link reappears. Initially, it was more of a comparison than a longing. I miss them, even if the avoidant doesn't realize it. However, their system believes that something is lacking. The super empath becomes psychologically unavoidable at this point. The empath changed what connection felt like, not because the avoidant wants them back. You cannot unlearn emotional attunement once you've experienced it. You can avoid it, repress it, or divert your attention. However, the reference point cannot be removed. Even when they are not present, the empath becomes the standard. Super empaths don't pursue power, which is another reason avoidants can't break free from this relationship. They provide regulation. The empath frequently acted as the relationship's emotional stabilizer. They anchored their nervous system, relieved avoidance anxiety, and absorbed emotional stress without taking revenge. This causes an avoidant to develop a subtle kind of emotional dependency that they are unaware of. They may convince themselves that they felt suffocated, but in reality, they lost the ability to control their emotions. And they sense it when it's gone. Particularly in times of stress, failure, or when their typical coping mechanisms are no longer effective. Additionally, avoidance frequently reappears months or even years later, to see if the empath still exists in the same way, rather than having to make amends. It's an unconscious desire to regain that control without going back to closeness. They can offer an ambiguous apology, a sentimental remark, or a casual message. It's not because they've recovered, but rather because they have a memory of the place where safety previously existed. This is the bit that most people don't get, though. Contrast, not contact, is what keeps the link strong. The super empath leaves a stronger impression in the avoidant spine as they heal, develop, and regain their energy. Why? Because the empath's sense of emotional availability has changed. The absence is final. Not as desertion, but as fulfillment. Additionally, avoidance has a severe problem with finality when it comes to profound emotional connections. It feels comfortable to be far away. Closure doesn't. A form of connection that the avoidant both longs for and fears is represented by the super empath. Someone who was able to see them clearly without attempting to alter them. Someone who made an unconditional love offer. Someone who, despite emotional disengagement, remained present until they stopped. The impact of that loss is distinct. It's not overly dramatic. It's silent. It manifests as restlessness, discontent, and a lingering feeling that something important has eluded them. Erase the unsettling reality. Avoidance frequently only becomes aware of the bond's profundity after it is no longer reachable. Their emotional processing is delayed, not because they didn't care. The avoidant suppresses, diverts attention, and moves on till the emotional bill is due, but the empath grieves, considers, and heals in real time. Additionally, the empath is no longer present to lessen the impact. This does not imply that the avoidant will come back prepared or changed. It does not imply that they will select vulnerability out of the blue. It implies that the relationship becomes a significant psychological milestone. A silent reminder of what they were fleeing and what was potential. Even if they never publicly acknowledge it, the relationship with the super empath becomes the benchmark for all others. This is where power changes for the empath. Genuine separation, not retaliation or quiet as a kind of punishment. The link fulfills its purpose when the empath stops looking for approval, stops waiting to be selected, and stops putting the avoidant at the center of their emotional universe. It becomes wisdom instead of a wound. Ironically, the avoidant is most affected during that time. Respect rather than yearning. Because avoidance is unrelated to need. They are drawn to independence. Additionally, the dynamic is irreversibly altered when the empath regains its wholeness and stops attempting to save, clarify, or maintain space. Before you exit this video, there is one last thing you should know. The goal here is not to make the avoidant aware of their losses. It involves realizing what you were carrying and making the decision to stop carrying it. The connection was important. It was genuine. However, it wasn't intended to ensnare you in self-doubt or waiting. It was intended to awaken your intuition, your depth, and your ability to love without losing yourself. It doesn't lessen the link if an avoidant is unable to confront it. It demonstrates its strength. So if they need to recollect, let them do so in silence. It is now your responsibility to proceed in a whole, regulated, and grounded manner. Because you enter your own gravity when you cease circling around their avoidance. And that's the beginning of peace. Please take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who is in need of this clarity right now if this message struck a chord with you. It's easy to love you. You're just in love with someone who didn't know how to stay.